Hello and welcome to Sporting Gibberish. I'm Stu Booth.
And I'm Jack Luffman.
On today's show, we're going to be talking about grassroots football, a big issue that's happened back in Preston, which we're going to cover, as well as lower league football. So some interesting things going on there.
It's an interesting week, I think, all in all, for one of two different reasons, and high profile, and maybe not just football as well.
Yeah, not in a good way.
Sports.
But yeah, we're also going to be talking Arabian Gulf League. We've got a special guest on today.
Yes, we have. Stu, you tracked him down.
Hunted him down, finally got there. Yes, we've got him on. But before we go into that, we're going to be talking about LeBron or Jordan, which I'm guessing you're going to ask me the big AO question.
I am, because obviously during lockdown, when we first started the podcast, and the Last Dance documentary was, the most watched documentary, I think, on Netflix, and arguably the best sporting documentary ever made, and you were probably against the whole world in terms of your opinion of Jordan, so I thought we'll throw that one in today, see what you think.
Yeah, we'll go on with that. We're going to little quick overlook of IPL. I gather my team's not doing so well, so we'll just make that nice and quick.
Mine's not doing much better, mate, to be fair. So
we're going to, for those that don't know, I bumped into Jack today at work, and oh my goodness, did he have a rant about England? Hopefully it's not going to be as ear bashing as I got before. I think Rowan actually felt sorry for me.
He did. I think he thought we was falling out.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be covering England. We're going to be talking a little bit about golf attire, which I have no idea what he's talking about.
Oh, that's good. That's deliberate. That's deliberate. Yeah.
We've got a special little slot going on. We've got our Sporting Gibberish Fancy Football Radisson Red expert online, ready to go.
It's ready to go. I've not actually heard it. You've got a special guest for that as well, haven't you?
Yes.
And I've not actually heard what this person, this expert, this guru of fantasy football is going to say. So I'm looking forward to that too.
That is correct. But we're going to start with fact or fiction.
Oh, I was terrible at this yesterday.
You were, but I actually asked Matt Aldred. I asked him how well he got on with it, and he actually said he got all three wrong. So don't feel too bad. But then if you compare yourself to the intelligence levels of Matt Aldred, yeah, I'd feel pretty awful if I was you.
Sorry, Matt.
Yeah. Right. So first statement: strikers have periods of hot form when they are more likely to score. Is this fact or fiction?
Well, you've got to say fact. Surely it's a fact.
It's not. It's fiction. Yeah. A widely held belief in strikers' form was echoed by a researchers' survey of the Premier League players, a large majority of whom believe scoring goals increase the chance of goals in the next game. But statistical analysis of goals by the 12 leading forwards in the Premiership in the 1994-95 season and the 95-96 season showed no significant association between one goal and another. For example, Alan Shearer scored in 79% of home games, 34-43, but when he failed to score in his previous home game, his rate was 85%, 17-20. In other words, his form was no hotter when he had not scored, although not significantly hotter statistically.
It's interesting that, because actually strikers, I know Lineker always says that he wants to see strikers missing chances as well as scoring. If a striker's missing chances, it means he's doing something right.
Yeah.
So he's probably kind of back. I should have thought about that, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Lineker being one of my heroes.
Yeah, but he backed it up. They backed it up with the analysis, because they also checked out Beardsley, Cantona, Fowler, Letitia, and Sheringham. Another one of your boys.
Teddy.
And none of the associations of any player, home or away, showed a pattern of scoring such that players are more likely to score if they've scored in the previous game. So,
there you go.
Yeah, interesting one. Right, this one, I like this one.
Yeah.
Don't you try and look at my screen
I
get a heads up. I saw you.
I've had a bad day, mate.
Yeah.
It's been a long day.
Right. Is this fact or fiction? Teams who celebrate goals collectively achieve better results.
I'm going to go yes, because surely it's a sign of team spirit and togetherness and the will to win and the aim towards the same goal.
Will you be correct?
Yes! What?
You would be correct.
Get in there.
A psychological study of scorers' behaviour following each of the 125 goals, and this is the best one, in the Israeli Premier League in 1992, assessed whether the player immediately went, crowd, coach, teammates, his destination, off-field toward crowd but not off the pitch, a number of players making contact with the scorer. Poor scoring behaviour is found to be a fairly good predictor of team success, the researchers found. Whether cohesive equals success or vice versa needs further study, although coaches are advised poor scoring behaviour can provide useful information about players' attitude towards a team.
Interesting.
So, all you coaches out there, get practicing your celebrations.
Celebrations. You remember, for a phase of teams doing like really like choreographed ones, like the rowing the boat and all that kind of stuff.
I've got a good story. So at the age of 16, 17, I'd signed for the mighty Lubbock FC. Goal scoring centre midfielder, and we scored against some other team, and I can't remember who it was. But we'd practiced a few celebrations because we were a free scoring team. So me and the centre forward decided to do the canoe. So 2 on one side, flip over 2 on the other side. But we sat in the D after I just scored. We sat in the D. He did 2 on one side, I did 2 on the, and we pretended we were moving around the D until this big hound of a centre half came over and just went, "You best get the up now." And at that point, I looked up at 16-year-old at this enormous man who must have been 30 something. I was like,
"Yeah, we'll get up. We'll move on."
And then off we trundled to the halfway line. Right, next one. Taking the lead just before half time makes a win much more likely.
Oh, actually, this came up on commentary. I'm going to go for the fact.
Fiction.
Oh.
Analysis of Premiership games between August 92 and October 95 showed that 355 matches had a 1-0 scoreline at half time. A survey of Premier League players showed that footballers had a belief of scoring just before half time was better than earlier in the game, but the researchers say the time the goal was scored doesn't have any effect on the game. Rates of win, lose or draw hardly vary at all statistically as a function when the first goal was scored. So
I thought that, that's another. So they reckon that it's good to score for half time is another fallacy.
Yeah.
There
it's the age-old shouts, isn't it? It's like, you know, the common ones, game of 2 halves. It's 0-0, even though 3-0 up.
All the cliches,
next one. Starting a penalty shootout is an advantage.
Well, common sense would say yes, because the pressure's on the second side if you score, and then they have to obviously take the last penalty in the shootout. You're going to tell me I'm wrong, aren't I?
I'm going to tell you you're wrong. Yeah. Fiction. A study into performance under pressure examined 95 penalty shootouts in the German FA Cup between 86 and 2006. The results found no grain of truth in the idea that taking the first kick of a shootout held any advantage. Nor did home teams fare any better statistically than visitors. The researchers said it's particularly noteworthy that relative frequency of the home team winning a shootout is in fact considerably smaller than the frequency of home teams winning a match during the regular season. Choking could influence the penalty conversion of home team players negatively.
I can't. I'm just. I don't know. I'm useless at that. So I've got 1 out of 4 there.
1 out of 4.
25%.
25%. So you're down.
Must do better.
Must do. Well, that's me done with the football one. So I'll let you dig out some cricket ones for next week.
Perfect. I look forward to that. Perfect.
Right, moving swiftly on. Something that's happened this week with regards to grassroots football, especially back in my hometown, Preston. So the agreement was around about 20 years ago that University of Central Lancashire would build this play facility, and then the university teams would play on this facility. And I'm talking this facility is top notch. There is 2 grass pitches as you enter, then as you go drive past it, that has a changing room facility shared between the 2 grass pitches. You get a little bit further up and there are about 8 to 10 cages, varying from 5-side pitches to 7-side pitches. Then there's a hockey pitch, but could also be used as a training pitch for football. Then there's a secondary 11-a-side hockey pitch or football pitch. So there's 2 full AstroTurfs there. A change of facilities, a gym's facility, a barn with a bar. So the other change of facilities. Then you get a little bit further around and there's a running track with a pitch in the middle of it. Then there's what they call the Grassmaster, which was the same size as Wembley when they originally built it. I played on that a few times and it is horrible. But the Grassmaster is basically intertwined, artificial and grass.
Yeah.
So it was it could never be called off. It was a mixture. It did go bald quite quickly, but it still had the threads of AstroTurf falling through. And then you go to the back of the facility and there was 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 more football pitches, a couple of rugby pitches and a cricket pavilion. So the facility site is absolutely immense. And the agreement, well I didn't know it was an agreement, was that this facility is during the week or whatever, university students, they get free access to it all, they play all the football matches there or whatever, hockey, anything that's going on, they use that facility. On evening time, it's pretty much used by every man and his dog in Preston, whether it be training for football, rugby, hockey, whatever is needed to. And other referees had an indoor session. There was an indoor sand pit where people use for training sessions. So everybody used it, and then on the weekend it was grassroots. We were playing town teams would play on a Saturday morning, then the local amateur teams would play on a Saturday afternoon. Sunday morning would be the men's football, then Sunday afternoon would be women's football, and then the academy from North End would also use that facility position. So it was well used all the time, and everybody's getting used to it. And then last week they've just said 20 years are up, our agreement is now null and void, nobody's allowed on this facility, and they've stopped everybody. I believe they're trying to make it into professional only outfit, so only North End can use it. But nobody amateur wise is allowed to use that facility anymore.
And in the current climate as well, when I would suggest, it's bad enough anyway at any point, but I would suggest that around Preston and that area that there's going to be some local football clubs, cricket clubs, rugby clubs that probably will not be able to afford to the upkeep of their own facilities, if you like, so it would be more demand, you'd have thought.
Yeah, well, I just don't understand the agreement that's gone in place, because now Preston Council have got to try and house all these other squads and these other teams
Elsewhere.
Places to go and play. And when we're talking these facilities, it's like playing, the pitches are equivalent to the ones at the Sevens.
I was about to say, it sounds a bit like the Sevens in
It's a
Dubai.
Seven setup, the pitches are immaculate. I used to love playing football in there because there was never a bad bubble, and now you're going to be going back to local park pitches. So anybody out there, before I carry on ranting about it, the petition is out on Twitter, it's out on Facebook. I'll put a link on our social medias. Please get it signed. And I've seen lots and lots of footballers out there signing it, getting it signed.
Very narrow-minded from afar.
Oh well, I don't understand it as a business sense of point of view as well, because they were making an absolute raking it in. If you think of that on the flip side of universities now that have lost students that don't have the income because online learning, surely you are cutting your legs from below.
It's very strange decision that, and you can't imagine the North End of creating like a multi-million-pound deal with them or something like that for sole use or exclusive use.
And the strange aspect is that North End have got their own training facility for the first team down at Springfields, which is another area of Preston. It's not too far away from Cotton, but they've got their own first team area. So I don't know if they're going to just make this exclusive academy, but the pitches will be just going to waste. They'll be sat there. And I know the guys back home, I speak to quite a few guys back home, and they're literally going, can't get a game in. League's open to play, but we can't get a game because there's no pitches.
Ridiculous.
Schools are closed, so they can't use their facilities, and there's a handful of park pitches.
Ridiculous. And actually, against that's not on our little prompt thing here, was that, and I picked up on it a little bit late, and I knew he's been in the pipeline for a long time, not to the extent of that facilities, but in Boston, my hometown, at the school I came from, Haven High Academy, they've got a planning for 3G, 4G pitch on the school for a community facility, and it's just been granted over £100,000 by the local council towards the £300,000. So it doesn't make any sense. You've got a lot smaller community begging, desperate for something that's not going to be as demanding as that or as impressive, and the other one that's shutting off to the local community. It makes no sense to me. It
does make sense, and what makes it, I think, people a little bit more bitter is they've had funded, for grassroots football, and now that this 20-year agreement that was in is suddenly up that nobody knew about. Just suddenly they've just gone, nothing. And then when you look at Twitter, UCLan is not even engaging with anybody. They're just shutting up shop. But
unfortunately, but get that petition signed for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Right, so you've put on Boston United.
Yeah.
Just before you talk about the FA Cup, unfortunately, Longridge lost.
Did they?
So that was like one of the local teams.
We talked about that last week.
Yeah, they lost to Skelmersdale at home, 1-0 on a penalty. And from all accounts, and hopefully Woody might be listening to this, handball, he claims that it was the Skelmersdale player that handballed it, not the Longridge player, and the penalty's gone against him, and they've lost through that.
And worth a lot of money, as you're saying. But on that, obviously, we mentioned Boston United last week at the FA Cup. Unfortunately, they had to withdraw from the FA Cup on Tuesday night
because of COVID.
So they had 2 cases of COVID prior to Saturday afternoon's game, so they did all the protocols and followed procedure of the game. The National League North game was postponed, and then apparently because of that, obviously all the players are going to go into a 14-day quarantine, so they had to forfeit the match. Now, they won't be the only side going through the FA Cup. And it's not just because it's Boston United. I mean, the money that it would cost them. They had a home draw, decent chance of getting through. They had a good run in it last year.
Yeah, and it was a non-team, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It's not even
and how is that fair? And it's not like we're desperate to play. Got to get the rounds in. I know there's a lot of rounds to go, and the argument is, yeah, they've got to get them through, but come on, you'd have thought that. What's the difference between that and the games that get called off because of weather at this time of year or later on in the, the third, fourth, first round proper things like that will go by the wayside because of weather? They suddenly make it up, don't you? And you see draws where teams are in the fifth round draw but they've not played the fourth round yet because of weather. I just think it's a bit narrow-minded again from the FA, but should we be surprised?
No,
and it's a bit unfortunate for Boston, who are obviously, like any other non-league club, that is a money earner, particularly with no other income.
Yeah, it's a big kick in the teeth, but I don't know. Is it a case of because there are so many qualifying rounds that they have to adhere to dates quite strictly?
It's just disappointing.
Yeah, I can imagine that everybody associated with Boston is absolutely devastated because it was a winnable game.
Yeah, definitely.
A winnable game, then that would have put them into the third or fourth qualifying round, and then you're only 2 games away from the first round proper then.
And of course the money, like we said, with their going on about it, with no other income, it would have been, I would have thought, between £5,000, £6,000, £7,000 if they'd won it.
Yeah, it would have been a decent whack anyway.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to talk about the Big Six takeover, but it's been kind of so do we need to talk about it?
Well, I think just for people who weren't aware of it, that I don't think it was the Big Six that initially came up. It was Liverpool and Man United. I think they originally came up with this idea of they were going to supply the lower leagues with some funding to make sure that they can flotate them for a little bit longer, reduce the size of the Premiership from 20 to 18, so reduce the games. I did read about how teams would get relegated, so they relegate X amount of teams, but they were going to a playoff.
Yes, because that happens in Scotland and other places, doesn't it?
But I think the issue was, and a lot of people were worried about, was that the Big Six that were going to get on board with it, so your current top 6 teams in size, you would say, not in last year's league position, because Spurs and Arsenal were nowhere near it. But yeah, they would then in short term be financing EFL clubs and making sure that they survive, but in the long term they would become a superpower, and the money that they would then intake would then probably put them in that upper echelons, and then unfortunately the Premiership that we love at the moment would then be just a six league game, wouldn't it?
And I think the cynicism around was that they reckon it's been around for a while, this idea. They still think it'll rear its ugly head again, and it's just so happened to try to take advantage of the current situation, because a lot of the lower league clubs are in a bit of dire straits. But they did vote for £50 million injection of cash for League One and League Two clubs.
So they're still going to do that anyway, so that's good news. But I don't see it being a big issue, dropping to 18 teams.
No, I agree with you. I think 20 is too many, maybe.
Yeah, and it probably ease up the burden on some of our international players, because by goodness do they need some rest time. Well, Maguire's got a rest now for the next couple of games, hasn't he?
Well, come on, let's not kick the ladder all the way down. We'll save it till
we'll do that later. But what we're going to do is move on to Arabian Gulf League. So last week they managed to get through some of their cup games, which was impressive because that basically signifies the start of the season. So it was a major effort. So, but what we've been doing is we've been having a chat with our friend Pedro. Who is associated with Al Wasl. So we asked Pedro a few questions, so I'll let you play that.
Yeah, you got hold of him, student, man.
Hi Pedro, welcome to Sporting Gibberish. Just for our listeners out there, can you just give us a brief overview of what you do and how you're the saviour of the Arabian Gulf League and everything that you are impacting on with Al Wasl? Cheers.
Hi Stuart and everybody, all the listeners of the podcast. So I've been working for Al Wasl over the last 7 years as marketing and club licensing officer. Along the way, like 4 years ago, I started doing some commentary for the Arabian Gulf League matches. Back then, just one match per round was covered, usually the match of the week. And it was just going out through Abu Dhabi Sports. And nowadays, since last season, we have all the matches covered in English, and they are going through Abu Dhabi Sports mainly, also through Dubai Sports and Sharjah Sports, this for the UAE and MENA region obviously, and then through Fancy.com to Europe and North America, and through SportsFleetGlobal.com to Australia and New Zealand. This as we speak. We might have more news on that coming soon. So that is it in terms of my contribution to the UAE Pro League football scene and Al Wasl in particular.
So So a lot of our guys out there are massive football fans and would love to go down and potentially adopt an Arabian Gulf League team. How can they get involved? Can you let us know?
So anyone who's interested in the UAE Pro League football scene can check the website, uaeproleague.ae, and also the social media channels, namely Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Usually the handle is @AGLeague, and they can check information of whatever is going on at the moment there, and then start to follow the teams and see whomever is playing close to home or something like that. It's an interesting competition on my view. Obviously not the same quality as English Premier League or La Liga, but it's a very interesting competition. And there are some hidden gems, I would say, that might be worth taking a look at.
So a lot of our guys out there, and final question from me is, who is going to win what and where is we going to finish this season? Hopefully you are now going to predict that Shadab Al Ahly will win the league, closely followed by Al Wasl and Al Nassr's bottom. Is that correct?
Well, that's kind of the $1 million question. It's very unpredictable this season. Obviously we have the usual top competitors, like obviously Shabab Al Ahly is one of them, also Al Ain, Al Jazeera, Sharjah, who happen to be the reigning champions, even though 2 seasons ago, but they are the reigning champions. And I would also include Al Nassr, the top competitors for this season, followed up by Al Wahda and Al Wasl as also somehow competitors, but a little bit outsiders in this run. And then you have the other teams. So basically this is a league with 2 different halves, the top half and the bottom half, even though sometimes some of the teams in bottom half will come through and fight at the top. I would say Bania especially, and eventually Kalba, might be worth taking a look in terms of getting involved in something more than the 7th place. And then you have teams like Ajman, Fujairah, Hatta, Horfakhan, all these teams, Dhafra, all these teams that will mostly fight to avoid relegation, but every now and then they are more than able to take points away from the top competitors. So it's very unpredictable, the Arabian Gulf League. I guess that's one of the main points I would highlight. It's very unpredictable. Anything can happen at any time. Maybe the last in the table to go to the home of the first in the table and get the 3 points. So anything can happen at any point. And that makes it very interesting in my view, at least. So I would invite people to follow. Again, mostly through Abu Dhabi Sports, also Dubai Sports and Sharjah Sports. It's available for the UAE and MENA region. It might be worthwhile to take a look and check some of the action.
Thanks, Pedro.
Yeah, Pedro, thank you very much. I tell you, it's bizarre. He's obviously admitted at the beginning there that it's not the same quality as the Premiership, but it does sound a bit like the Premiership where...
Yeah, anybody can beat anybody.
Yeah, you know, like
definitely.
Norwich City can turn around and beat Man City, you know,
Yeah,
that type of aspect.
yeah.
So, guys, what we're going to do is, over the next few weeks, maybe even if we're allowed, maybe even venture out and maybe try and get a live game.
Yeah.
And see what's going on.
Definitely,
But
yeah.
we'll keep you posted
Get
and get some guys on the road.
So, come on, Al Nassr, that's what I say.
Shabab Al-Ahly.
Yeah, one of the favourites.
Yeah.
Could be a good derby, that.
Well, I believe Al Nassr and Al Wasl's the derby. That's why he doesn't like you.
Yeah, that's what
That's why Pedro doesn't answer the phone to you.
Yeah, only speaks to Stu.
Yeah, right, we'll move on to the IPL review. This is going to be short and sweet because our teams are out.
Yeah, they've gone.
Right.
Kings 11 Punjab struggling. The big man Chris Gale still poorly. I think
he's
he's been
in
in hospital.
hospital, yeah.
Not with COVID, just I don't know what.
Just got some type of virus, I believe.
Yeah. But he's been posting on social media. He's living in the 5-star hotels.
I can imagine he's probably getting fed grapes.
Yeah. And so yeah, they're not going too well. Even chucking away wins from losses from winning positions. And then my team, Rajasthan Royals, even with Ben Stokes backfiring and Jofra Archie's bowling bombs, but they're still losing.
Yeah.
So that we're struggling. Dubai Capitals, I think. I still think they could be the winners, you know.
Well, this is the one that I think we mentioned last week. Is Raul Chimbley came to me and said, "Sir, informed team DC, even though they're not top, DC. He's predicted DC, so I kind of adopted DC without
so we're changing, and they've got two quick bowlers, two South African, Nortier and Rabada, and it just shows.
Rabada,
it just shows that any amount of pace on a cricket ball causes some problems. So
talking about cricket, have you been getting on lately?
We lost last week, Stu. Didn't get many. We were chasing 200. So team little innings, quick fire dozen or whatever it was.
How many did you score?
11. But I will say this, and the boys will back me up. XR boys, I took an absolute, but I would say possibly the best catch of my career.
Ever.
Left-handed, full length, goalkeeper style. Grabbed it, full length. He smashed it as well. And as I've landed, got a bit lucky because my elbows hit the ground, but it just popped up and I managed to grab it again.
Awesome.
The first wicket.
How many did you score?
11.
Okay, right.
Thanks, Stu.
No worries. Right, you want to talk about LeBron?
Yeah. So obviously,
and Michael?
First of all, obviously the Lakers did go to a fifth game in the end.
Yeah.
Well, no, sixth game. 4-2.
Yeah, that's correct.
So into the sixth game early in the week. Lakers won. So that was their first championship, 2010. Obviously in honour of Kobe, and LeBron James was named MVP of the final series. Unsurprisingly, I think he led them to victory certainly in that last game. So that's fairly obvious, and I don't want to talk about that too much. What I didn't realise when I was reading about it is that LeBron, that's the third NBA title he's won, the third ring he's won, but with 3 different franchises or teams. Now, so that posed me, I was thinking, do you know what, this is perfect. Because clearly that's a sign of a really good player. You know, if you can go and win it 3 times. So although he's not won it as many times as Michael Jordan yet, there's still plenty of miles in the tank left in him, I would say. What do you think? Is he going to end up the greatest basketball player ever to play the game rather than Michael Jordan? Is he there now? Jordan only won his with one team. What are your thoughts, Stu?
It's a strange one because my initial thoughts are he's a franchise player. He's been bought and brought into different teams. So have these franchises that have brought him in because he's at star quality and bolstered the squad, and basically he's jumped from being in a really good ship to another really good ship to another really good ship.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan built that team, built it from the ground upwards. I wouldn't know, and all I know is from what I hear from Paul Walker is LeBron James is absolute mustard, and so is Michael Jordan. So it's very difficult. It's a bit like comparing Messi and Ronaldo, isn't it? On any given day, they're going to go down as the greatest players of this generation without a shadow. They're probably the greatest players we've probably seen in the last 20, 30 years. But I don't know enough about LeBron's movements to then say he just moved from being in a championship winning team to another championship winning team. It's like Messi going from Barcelona to Man City to...
You mean like Pep Guardiola?
Yeah, like Paris Saint-Germain. Is that a case of you've just moved from being in an equally as good team to another equally as good team? Or has he gone into an average team and suddenly he's just lifted the whole place?
It's difficult, isn't it? But in terms of the Lakers, you would say, on the bare facts, and again, love basketball, don't watch it religiously, not an expert at it, but do watch it every now and again and do follow the results. You would say that he must have done something for Lakers to have won the first one in 10 years. Clearly, Kobe Bryant had a major part to play in that up until early in the year, unfortunately. So your point there, potentially just on the face of it, is that he's done that, but he's still got some more in him, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's definitely a class player, and that would happen. So let's take that into football terms. I'll take that into like Thiago, that's just signed for Liverpool. I watched some training videos with him the other day, and he's got unbelievable. And I'm thinking, we're already a Premiership winning team, and we're one of the strong teams in Europe. And so we've got this player that just suddenly looks like he's so much better than everybody else in our team. So what does that do? Like LeBron James could have gone to Lakers that were already not far up in, and then you've got this superstar that just added in, and it's just going to step you up that. So is LeBron that type of person, or is LeBron just that good he's taken an average team to that level?
Anybody out there who knows a little bit more about it than us, or got an opinion about whether LeBron or Jordan better, or you think somebody else is in the mix, or are we not comparing the right players? I don't know.
Yeah, we should get Paul Walker on, because he talked a good game, but then he told me he did miss the shot to win the game last night. It was like the glory shot, last second of the game. There were 2 points down.
He fell asleep.
He went for a 3-pointer.
Oh, LeBron did.
No, Paul.
Paul did.
Paul played, didn't he? He went for a 3-pointer, rimmed it.
Oh dear, Paul.
Bounced off.
You can't do that in the last minutes.
No.
But anyway, yeah, we might get him on again, give him a chat, see what he thinks.
Yeah, no good rimming. Right, moving on to your England review. Family friendly.
Right. Okay.
Right,
so,
here we go. Everybody get ready.
Before we start, and Stu's not watched any of them, have you? No, you're
not interested.
I'll be honest, I didn't watch any of the. I've seen the goals from the Belgium game, the Wales game. Sorry, a friendly. Read the reports, fine. So I can't really comment on that. Comment on the other two teams. I'm not going to go minute by minute, blow by blow. Make some few general comments. First of all, I actually think that the 3 centre backs suit us, because I think it's clear that it's not our strongest position. So actually, it strengthens there, particularly playing it when Conor Cody, who incidentally for me, as is probably one of the only ones out of this period who's absolutely got his reputation higher, outstanding. He's a natural sweeper, a natural leader, so it's perfect. And I don't think it's, and we should discuss this, I don't think it's a negative defensive thing. I think the problem is in front of that, where Southgate seems adamant on playing like a 4 with 2 holding midfield players, and then this still playing like the 3 with the wide forwards. To me, that's not getting the best out of our front players, and it's certainly making a big gap between that midfield 4 with the wing backs and up the top. For me, I'd like to see Henderson playing that holding role with 2 more attacking midfield players in front of him, with the wing backs, and then Kane and Rashford, Kane and Sterling, whatever it might be. Has he been rotating the squad to try and sort of appease club managers, players, because they've played a lot of football, haven't they? A lot of football. Is he, like you said earlier, Stu, is he trying to experiment a little bit as well as try and win? I think it's a combination of all of those 3 things. But what really flabbergasted me last night in last night's game against Denmark, not so much the result, because I actually think we did okay with 10 men. It was the fact that he's played Maguire from the start, he was in terrible form, deservedly sent off, could have gone for the first tackle, got a booking, probably a little bit unlucky for the second booking, but what a minging touch to actually create the opportunity to get booked. So rightly so, but then to me he's got a problem, because he's clearly then got a back 4 then, he wants to play a back 4, of which he's got Conor Cody, who nobody really knows that can he play as a centre half. Incidentally, it showed he could in the end, and he's obviously got Kyle Walker there, who is not a natural centre half, albeit he played very well again the night before, and I quite like him as that right centre half, because like you said, the recovery in him. So he's got to get rid of one of his right backs, Reece James or Walker, to bring on the other centre half from Tyrone Mings. He doesn't. He takes his left back off, so then we've got no left back again. No balance. I don't understand. And then proceeded to kind of he brought Calvin Lewin on later on and still played him sort of high up on the left rather than alongside Kane. He then, with minutes left, takes Rice off and brings Henderson on, who's never going to create when Grealish, by all accounts, had a great game against Wales.
Man of the match.
I'm not saying he's our saviour, because the jury's still out on him, but at least he can carry the ball, holds the ball, and he's creative. I like Southgate. I'm not calling for his head. I'm not one of those social media people on Twitter calling for his head. I just find some of his decisions over the last 2 international camps, where we started the last international camp with no left back in the squad. He's then bombed the other 2 out of the squad for the COVID breach beforehand, and Maguire, rightly so, allows these 3 in this time in this squad, in Chilwell, Sancho and Abraham, and actually Sancho got minutes both games. I just find, I don't know where maybe he needs a break, maybe he just needs this break, I don't know. That's my rant over anyway.
Yeah, so Jack went on one today. That you just had like a minuscule of what I had today, and people felt sorry for me and actually came over to check if I was alright. But yeah, my response to it all was, maybe because we've got this Euro League now, is that for an England fan now, the focus is not about rotating players, trying people out in different positions, different formations and stuff. It's more about the result. And then, were we blindsided the fact that we beat Belgium? Were we lucky? Potentially, from the reports I've read, You know, the game could have gone either way.
Yeah, definitely.
It could have gone either way. Henderson maybe did buy a penalty, maybe he didn't. There's lots of different opinions out there. But are we reading this all wrong? Is Southgate going, you know what, not really bothered about EuroLeague, this is a chance to get 8 games in, trying people in different positions, try different things that might change and adapt in the game, which would set us better for the Euros. That's my only, and this is my only hope in my head, is that that's what his thought process is, because if he's attempting to win this EuroLeague, it sounds like he's trying his best not to do it.
Yeah, because if he thinks that, if all things have been equal, and he thinks like last night and the night before's team, the game before team, is his best team at that particular time with injuries and stuff to win that game, then I am worried, because it clearly not their best team. He's not put the best teams out, because if everybody's fit and that, you play your best team if you want to win every game, don't you?
I'm a bit surprised that Pickford still keeps getting game time, and
I mean,
if he is rotating, get Pope some game time in these big games.
I mean, I was still not convinced that Pope's the man, and actually Pickford, although he didn't do anything great over the 2 games, didn't do particularly well for last night's penalty. Sort of, I think he panicked Walker a little bit, and did he have any need to be off his line? I don't know. But certainly from a positive point of view, Cody, the Kyle Walker bounced back well from his sending off in the last game. Grealish obviously did well against Wales. Thought Mason Mount showed patches as well, glimpses. Reece James was outstanding last night, to be fair. But by all accounts got sent off after the whistle. So
yeah,
he'll learn from that. He'll learn from that.
Interesting, but we're not going to stay on England review anymore. We're going to move to golf time.
Right, okay. So
I think you come dressed half as a golfer with your polo top and
Woodall Spark Career Club, mate. We're for the badge. They're in a bit of bother as well at the minute. Woodall, need a new pavilion roof.
Yeah, any roofers out there, do it for free.
£20,000. Save your club, buy a tile, save your club, whatever the slogan is. £5 a tile.
That's actually a decent attempt, that. If you've got a few people in there.
Yeah, so I think they've had a good start. So I've bought 25 quid worth already. So anybody out there, they've had a bit of a rough time with it. But anyway, golf attire. So it was you won't know, Stu, but it was the BMW PGA Championship at Wentworth this last weekend in the UK. Won by Tyrrell Hatton, a local boy, or an English boy, anyway, a British boy. Took a bit of criticism because he wore a hoodie, certainly over the last 2 rounds, to play golf in. A golfing hoodie, Adidas Golf, I think he's sponsored by Adidas golfing hoodie.
So it was a proper hoodie with the hood on?
It had a hood on, yeah,
okay.
And not like, and it wasn't in blazing like a American thing, nice at Adidas.
Usually it's like a 3/4 zip top, isn't it?
Yeah, or a jumper or whatever like that. So there's a bit of controversy, some mixed opinions. I read a piece on the BBC saying they've got to embrace change if they want golf, a little bit like any sport to a degree, bar football. If you want the youngsters through, you've got to try and embrace it. Got me thinking about what's happened with golf over recent years. Ricky Fowler's first of all brought the snapback cap in. Rory McIlroy, the round neck, and Tiger was the round neck t-shirt rather than the collar. But I just wonder if the hood is a bit too far for me.
So you sound like an old man now.
And I just think it's one step. Although it looked quite smart, I think it's one step too far.
No, don't agree with it. What difference does it make? What difference does it make what he's wearing?
But it doesn't make any difference.
It doesn't make a difference.
But
it's not within the rules. It's like having an outrageous kit. If there was any kit that should be banned this season, it's Man United's black and white.
What is that simple?
That is the worst looking kit. But you know what? Some kid will love it and go, I'm going to buy that because I'm cool and trendy.
And you've hit the nail on the head, because it may be the fact that you can wear a hoodie will inspire people to play golf or not be stuck up. I mean, out here, I've played golf in a few different countries. Not that I'm very good, but out here, the dress code's slightly better than what it is in Australia. In Australia, you go in your singlet, as they call it. It's horrific. They all live it. So you don't want to get to that stage. And I like the fact that there's a bit...
But why? Why are you so adamant they have to wear this certain attire?
Because I think you've got to look smart. Surely.
What? You've got to look smart to be able to play golf?
Well, not to be able to play golf. I mean, always look smart, but I can't play. All the gear, no idea, man.
So, roll with it. If people want to wear Ralph C. Nesbitt vests and crack on with it,
keeping up appearances.
Crack on.
Hatton's hoodie. What do you think? Hatton's hoodie. Should it be allowed or not?
I'm wear whatever you want. It's entertainment. It's not about what they're wearing. It's about how they're playing. And if it makes him feel comfortable and he does well, and he gets golf a few more people down there, then golf have done well. They've opened that market up to try and encourage young people to participate. Right, we'll leave that and his old man rant alone. He's proper on one today, isn't he?
Long week, long term. It's half term tonight, by the way.
Yeah.
We finished school.
And we're supposed to be wearing pink for Breast Cancer Month, more salmon.
I did have pink on earlier.
Such a like.
I had a pink.
Yeah, he had a pink hoodie on.
I'm off to play golf in there.
Yeah. Right. So, fancy football time. We obviously had the international break, so we've had no fixtures. But what I decided to do was get in contact with our mate Larks, who is a self-proclaimed expert on fancy football. So I just gave Larks a quick tinkle and it's like, Larks, can you give us any hints and tips leading into this weekend? Give us a bit of a lowdown what you may be doing and give a bit of advice out to the people. So he's come back to the people.
Oh, yeah, and I have not heard this, so we're going to play it now and see what he says.
Thank you, Stuart and Jack, again for the opportunity to come on Dubai's favourite podcast and just share some of my wisdom about football, fantasy, dream team, tactical manager. Obviously, we're just coming off the back of an international window, real good chance for to recharge your batteries and reflect on your team as we get back into the Premier League. During that time, obviously, I like to try and get the tactical edge, so I've been myself, I've taken some time to read, and I've picked Big Sam, My Autobiography by Sam Allardyce. Something I took from that was just a little quote, which, if I may, I'd like to share with you. We would have lost, but I made two of the best substitutions of my life, bringing on Julian Volbert for Guy Donnell and George McCartney for Gary O'Neill. And Big Sam, one of the best to ever do it, he's inspired me, so that's exactly what I'm going to do this weekend. My top tip, Calvert-Lewin out, Wilfried Zaha in, 7.2 million. Bob's your uncle. Thanks very much for having me. All the best. Thanks, lads.
Well, there you go. You heard it here first.
There you go.
He's taking it very seriously, isn't he?
That's a big shout though. Calvert-Lewin out. I hope he's not done a little bit of poker play there, making everybody drop Calvert-Lewin.
Be interesting. We'll have to track out our league, see how many follow the Larks and his team jam season.
Yeah, before we move on, we'll just have a quick look at the Premiership fixtures this week. Pick out any outstanding games. I think you can't look any further than that first one, can you?
Yeah, Merseyside derby.
You know what? This is poised to be one of the best Merseyside derbies in a long, long time. Simply because Everton are on such a high. The fans getting a little bit vocal, getting in and amongst it, thinking now they're legitimate Premiership title champions or contenders when they played nobody apart from Spurs.
Oh, and they were nobody there.
Yeah. But interesting for Liverpool is everybody's back.
Yeah.
Bar Alisson, everybody's back. Mane's back, Thiago's back, John Shaqiri's back, even though he probably wouldn't have played anyway. Yeah. But it'll be interesting because this is going to be a statement of intent.
Yeah, I actually think that Liverpool will make that statement of intent and put Everton back in their box for a little while, I think, personally.
Yeah, well, Eden at work, I saw him, he's a massive Everton fan, Scouser as well, so it was like, Liverpool 3-1. He was like, no, 1-0. I was like, what, we won 1-0? I said, Pickford going to throw it in for us? It just didn't speak to me. Didn't speak to me. But yeah, that'd be an interesting game. I'm going to go 3-1 Liverpool.
Yeah, I think Liverpool win, definitely. Other big one that stand out, Pep and his apprentice.
Yeah, City at home to Arsenal. That's a good game. That's literally that first day, that Saturday. What a game of football there is. Everton, Liverpool, Chelsea, Southampton, City, Arsenal. Then
I fancy Newcastle over to Man United. Newcastle. If the Newcastle turn up, they'll do United.
Well, it's the game that Longstaff only scores in, isn't it? He just turns up to that one game and scores.
And then Sunday starts with the old cliched 6-pointer.
Yeah, Sheffield United, Fulham. United need, well, both teams need that win desperately.
Is that, what's that Palace hope by? It's a sort of the M3 derby or something, is it?
It looks shocking, sounds shocking, it probably will be shocking.
Yeah, it will be shocking. London derby. Incidentally, Tottenham Hotspur fans, actually, a lot of them are more anti-West Ham than they are Arsenal.
Yeah, alright. So Spurs West Ham will be an interesting game.
Spurs have got to start well again.
Yeah, I think it's West Ham are a bit like Newcastle. They're one of them funny teams that it could be 3 or 4-0 to Spurs, or it could be a 2-1 to West Ham.
I think Antonio's always a handful, and defensive we're not our strongest suit for me, but yeah, good game.
Leicester City Villa again,
derby.
And that'll be an interesting one coming off the back of their results last week. Yeah. Leicester losing and Villa absolutely thumping Liverpool. Yeah. Then it's Monday. Looks like an awful game. West Brom Burnley. But I really like the look of that Monday night one, Leeds United Wolves,
and
because
it's half term. I'll stay up for that. Yeah.
yeah, it's that's an interesting one because of the type of football both teams play. Obviously, Wolves will be panicking a little bit because Ronaldo's gone down with COVID.
Yeah.
So that's like all Wolves squads out, bar Cody.
It could be interesting that.
Yeah, so I think that'll be a close one, and again that will be more of a find out where Leeds are.
Yeah. And how much they empty the midfield, George?
Yeah, into the midfield but finished 10th. But yeah, we will see how that arises. But yeah, some interesting fixtures this weekend.
Yeah.
And over to you, Jack.
Yeah, just one last thing before we go. The inaugural Wellington Cup takes place on Sunday, which is a golf competition between staff members from WSO, which is our school, Wellington Silicon Oasis, Dave Adams' school from WIS, which is Wellington International School in Dubai, and then Sam Cole's school from WET, which is Wellington Al Kahil, in a socially distanced stage for the competition, 10 per team. At the Ells Club, a buggy each, great deal. So that's big. So I'm going to do a bit of recording while we're
yeah,
there.
that'll be the good day out. Unfortunately, I didn't make the squad. I can't understand how I've not made the squad.
After I've worked with the co-captains Darren Keane and Paul Fogarty.
Well, Bartlett's made it, and I've not.
Talk to Aldred about that.
Yeah, well, I think we should go on. Maybe go and have a chat with him now.
Yeah. Okay, let's go. So before we go, get involved in those debates today. You know. Don't forget to sign that petition in Preston. LeBron or Jordan, am I right for my rant in England? What about the hoodie rant? We're not sure, but get involved, because at the end of the day, Stu.
What do we know?